Om Jnanatimarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Om Harihi Om. Very good. Welcome everyone to our latest live stream. This is presented by the Dharma Nation channel on YouTube, but it's also presented more specifically by the International Sanatana Dharma Society. This is a movement that is a nonprofit religious movement. It's a 501c3, and it is a movement that is dedicated to restoring Dharma in this world in the most authentic way imaginable, and in such a manner that every single sector of human society, and indeed of all society, is positively affected. So again, I thank you very much for being here tonight for this weekly live stream that we do every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time. And with that, we're going to be revisiting a very important topic that I've spoken about several times in several videos in the past, including one specifically that I believe is called something like how to recognize an authentic guru. I believe that's the name of the video that came out quite a few years ago, where for close to an hour I go very, very deeply into indeed what is a real guru. And as I've said in the past, and this bears repeating, and I will repeat this of necessity for the rest of my life, and that is this, that when it comes to Sanatana Dharma, unfortunately, as is found in modern times among so many people, there tends to be a lot of confusion as far as what Sanatana Dharma actually teaches, what it stands for, etc. Well, fortunately, the truth of the matter is when it comes to the philosophical conclusions of Sanatana Dharma, there is no ambiguity whatsoever. There is no mystery. There is no, everyone just has their own opinion and whatever you wish to believe about the Vedic viewpoint on X, Y, or Z topic, just choose what you want, etc. No, that's modernity. That's an idea that has come about in roughly the last several hundred years, let's say. But the truth of the matter is this is not a part of Sanatana Dharma. Everything can be known. And more, there is indeed a Vedic perspective, a Vedic position on every topic conceivable. And when it comes to guru, this is one of these topics where there is actually no room for speculation. What is an authentic guru and what is not an authentic guru are laid out in black and white. Speaking of print form, in the form of the Vedic scriptures. So again, there's no mystery as far as, what is a guru? Just make up your own idea, and everyone can act in whatever way they want and choose to call themselves a guru, etc. No, this is nonsense that is, again, more new agey and more in keeping with the ideas of modernity where truth is subjective. But rather, when it comes to what is indeed an authentic guru, the Vedic scriptures have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of verses from everywhere from the Bhagavad-Gita to Srimad Bhagavatam to indeed everywhere, the Upanishads and on, explaining precisely with laser precision what are the qualities of a true guru. But then interestingly also there are verses, and I've seen them and I've published them in my books, where it even says what are not the qualities of a guru, that if a person is A, B, C, D, then they are not a guru. And there is consistency among all these verses describing what is a guru. There is no controversy, there is no contradiction, there is no speculation whatsoever. So again, if an individual very sincerely and truthfully wants to know what is a true guru, you have the ability to know this. And again, in an authentic and authorized sort of way, by looking at the scriptures or by listening to individuals like myself who have studied the scriptures and have done so for a very long time. So all that being said, we're going to be examining indeed one of these verses from the Vedic scriptures that talk about the nature of guru. But I picked this very specific verse to discuss today from the Katha Upanishad for a very special reason, and that is this. Several reasons, actually, but I'll just mention a few of them. First of all, interestingly, when it comes to the question of what is an authentic guru, that is a question that people ask all the time, that people speak about all the time, etc., etc. But the truth of the matter is, it's a rare thing that people will ask the conjoining question, well, what is an authentic disciple? Because, of course, everyone wants to know what is a true guru, what is a true guru. But the truth of the matter is, the other side of the coin is also understanding what makes an individual qualify to actually be a disciple. See, it's not a matter of merely discerning that, oh, this individual who, to make this more modern, who I'm watching on YouTube, or I went to this person's seminar, etc. It's not merely a matter of, oh, is this person someone who is for real? Certainly that needs to be discerned. But more than this, let's say that in theory we have come to the point where indeed we have found an authentic and legitimate guru. Well, simply the fact of having found an authentic and legitimate guru, does that in and of itself give us a right to be a disciple of that guru? Do we not also have to be qualified as a disciple? Well, the Vedic scriptures are very clear about this. Again, when it comes to the quality of guru, and also when it comes to the qualities of the disciple. The Vedic scriptures are indeed very clear that one must be indeed worthy to even be a disciple. So one thing that's wonderful about this verse, which I have not read yet, I will in just a moment, is that it discusses both the qualities of a true guru and a true disciple, and how both must be there in order for there to be success as far as the individual seeker having self-realization and God realization. So that's the first thing that's of significance about this verse. The other thing of significance is this, that this verse also makes it extremely clear that indeed to find that perfect combination of an authentic and legitimate guru coupled with a truly sincere disciple is very rare, is extremely rare. And thus, this is not an egalitarian enterprise where truth is open quite literally to everyone. Truth is indeed open to everyone. However, there is a requirement, and that is true sincerity, if an individual is to know truth, among other requirements. But one other thing that this verse makes very clear is that indeed it will always be a small number of individuals who are qualified to know truth. So having said all that as a preface, and now everyone is very curious to hear what this verse is, let me read this verse to everyone. And again, this is from Katha Upanishad, a wonderful Upanishad that we've commented on before. And it's 1, 2, 7. So Katha Upanishad 1, 2, 7. And it's a somewhat long verse, but I will read this now. Many cannot even hear about the soul, and even after hearing about the soul, many cannot understand it. This is because it is hard to find a guru who is a genuine seer of the truth. Such a qualified guru is a great soul and is very rare. At the same time, realization of the truth can be had only by those disciples who carefully follow the qualified guru's teachings and become expert in the science of God. Such disciples are also very rare. Thus it is that only a few ever come to know the soul in truth. So again, powerful verse, wonderful verse, that again explains several things. There's quite a bit here actually, which again, as always, due to time, we won't be able to fully explicate this verse as deeply as we would like to. This is another one of these verses that we could talk about for hours. But there's quite a bit going on here. So let's go through this verse in a systematic way, line by line. So first of all, many cannot even hear about the soul. Now, what this verse, of course, is focusing on is indeed self-realization. That is knowing Atman, what in Sanskrit is called Atman. Knowing one's true self. That is what in the West is often called the soul. And this verse begins by saying, many cannot even hear about the soul. What is meant by this? Well, both literally and figuratively. Sadly, given human conditions, there certainly are situations and societies where if an individual even somewhat sincerely wants to know what is the nature of self, they don't have access to that knowledge. And that has become a little bit less of a problem now than, let's say, even 35, 40 years ago. You know, we forget that 35, 40 years ago, there was something called the Iron Curtain, for example. There was the Soviet Union. There were so many nations where if you wanted to be a spiritual person and inquire into the nature of the soul and hear about what is my true self, you couldn't, for the most part, or at least not without a lot of danger. So that's the first thing. And then this verse goes on, and even after hearing about the soul, many cannot understand it. So this is even more telling. How the truth of the matter is, even if one has access to knowledge that is spiritual in nature, which again, most of us in the Western world, especially living in America and Europe and Australia and in India and so many places, we're more fortunate than individuals for whom their society suppresses this knowledge. At least we can go to a bookstore and we can get these books. We can do things like come to YouTube and watch videos about what is the nature of the soul, etc. But the truth of the matter is, there are individuals who, even having access to this knowledge, still won't understand. They can read Bhagavad-Gita, for example, and they'll maybe glean a little bit of wisdom that pertains to them specifically here and there in their reading of Bhagavad-Gita. But to fully understand Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad-Gita, or let's say the teachings of the Upanishads, or any of these Vedic scriptures, that's something else, to truly understand them. One can read about these things, one can hear about these things, but to have a full grasp is indeed more rare. So this is what the first verse is saying, is that we should have appreciation. Appreciation that we have access to these sacred teachings, and that if we do indeed have the ability to understand, that we have that ability. We should be very grateful for this. Now, why is this the case? That indeed the nature of our true self is so difficult to come upon? Well, this is how this verse now proceeds. This is because it is hard to find a guru who is a genuine seeker of the truth. Now, here with this sentence, several things are being said. First of all, this verse is explaining that this is the process. This is the process. So again, for individuals, and again, this is very modern, this whole silly notion that, I don't need a guru, I'm my own guru, all this New Age nonsense. For an individual who believes this, well, the Vedic scriptures, again, go on endlessly about how, no, you must indeed have a guru. So again, this verse is explaining that one must indeed have a guru in order to understand what is the true nature of self, what is the nature of God, what is the nature of our reality, etc. But then this sentence goes on and qualifies, not just any guru, but a guru who is a genuine seeker of truth. So in other words, we must have a guru who is not merely a guru in name alone, not an individual who claims to be a guru, but they really know nothing. They just kind of make things up, or they themselves have read a lot of pseudo-spiritual books and they just kind of parrot what they heard, and maybe they have a little bit of charisma to them, etc. No, this is not what we are to look for in a guru. Rather, in a true and legitimate guru, we are looking for someone who, their knowledge is perfect. And again, there's that P word that I use again and again, and that most spiritual teachers today, so-called spiritual teachers, are too cowardly to come too close to. A guru's knowledge is perfect. Now, when I say perfect, I don't mean that they can necessarily answer questions about physics. That's not what I mean, obviously. Not quantitatively perfect, but qualitatively and philosophically perfect when it comes to indeed offering authentic philosophical answers to individuals' queries about the nature of truth. Their responses, the knowledge that they share with their disciples, is indeed perfect, meaning it's accurate, meaning it's authentic, it's authorized, it's legitimate. It's something that is coming indeed directly from the Vedic scriptures and not just their own mental speculation. They don't have a script of various things that they kind of have for different occasions, etc. No. Rather, with every individual who approaches them and asks questions, they approach that individual as an individual, and going within and accessing their own deep knowledge and experience of the Vedic scriptures, they give a perfect answer. They give the answer. So this is indeed what we are looking for in a true guru, and that's why it is said here that we're talking about a guru who is a genuine seer, a genuine seer of truth, one who truly understands truth. And by genuine seer, what is meant by this is precisely this, that the true guru is someone who certainly they have intellectual/philosophical knowledge. But more than this, they are a genuine seer of truth. In other words, they are an individual who themselves have indeed experienced truth in a living way, and who they themselves live their life in such a way that they are a testament to that truth. Only such an individual can consider themselves to be a guru and act in the role of a guru. So now, let's go on to the next verse. And the next sentence. And this next sentence is indeed quite important. Such a qualified guru is a great soul and is very rare. Is very, very rare. I had to answer this question in a very sad way. I believe the last time that we had a live stream, but I believe there was an individual who asked a question from Australia. And he asked the question, are there any legitimate spiritual teachers in Australia who I know of or who I could recommend, etc.? And I had to give him the very blunt and very honest answer. No. And I explained then what now the Vedic scriptures themselves are explaining. So again, everything that I say ultimately is backed up by the Vedic scriptures perfectly. And that is indeed, to find such an individual is very rare, is a very difficult thing. And keep in mind, this is the Katha Upanishad, written by the sage Katha. And this scripture came about at a time when to find a true and authentic Vedic guru was much easier than it is now. This was written thousands of years ago when people were much purer and Vedic society was much stronger, much more prevalent. But even then, this great sage is saying this, that to find such a guru is very rare. What to speak of today? So thus, again, to find such an individual is not easy, and neither should it be. See, this is the thing. So many of us might think to ourselves, oh, well, that doesn't sound fair. I want to know truth. Why can't there be individuals on every block who know that truth, just kind of like McDonald's? And I can just go there and get truth, even if I have to pay something for that truth or whatever. Again, kind of like McDonald's. That is not the nature of truth. The nature of truth is such that we must make ourselves qualified and worthy of that truth, because truth is not something that we grasp. It's not a thing that we just kind of grab in our greedy little hands and then use, thinking that now we have some sort of quote-unquote power, some sort of so-called spiritual power. No, truth is something that we serve. Truth is not something that we grasp and use. Rather, if we have the proper understanding, and if we are blessed enough, truth is something that grasps us. And if we are fortunate enough, truth is something that will use us in its service. It's when we have such an attitude, and only when we have such an attitude, that then we have the ability to access a true guru. So this is the qualification for the disciple. and more, this is something that we need to understand, is that indeed when we claim that we want to know truth, it's one thing to claim this verbally, it's another thing to even believe it ourselves. But we have to truly analyze ourselves within very deeply and question our own motivations even, especially in the very beginning. I claim I want to know truth. Really? Why? Do I want to know truth in the sense of the internet age so that I can win debates? So I can engage in online sort of debating and, oh, I win. Is that why we want truth? Do we want truth because, well, we're really just curious and it's just kind of a curiosity that's really bothering us, but instead of being curious about the latest gossip around celebrities, well, we want to make this more philosophical, so I'm curious to know, okay, well, what is God like? But then having attained to that knowledge, we do nothing with it. See, we have to question our own motivations. When we say, I want truth, what do we mean? And to what extent do we truly want that truth? You see, for some of us, and again, this is a minority, this was the case with me. This was the case with me when I was a child. I wanted to know truth to the exclusion of all other considerations. And this is how we are to desire truth. We must desire truth to the point where we are willing to relinquish everything else, every other personal attainment. We are willing to relinquish ego. We are willing to relinquish control even and turn that control over to truth itself and to God. And again, as I said before, ultimately surrender to that truth. It's when we have a radical sincerity of this description that then the guru becomes aware to us and not before. So thus, such a qualified guru is a great soul. In other words, they must be recognized. When you meet such a person, make sure you recognize that that is the case. Again, I've said this in previous videos. When you come across, let's say, theoretically, if you were to come across a great historical spiritual figure, let's say somehow or other you came across Jesus. And no, not a person pretending to be Jesus, actually Jesus. Or let's say you were to come across the Buddha, the actual Buddha, or a great sage, or a truly great spiritual philosopher like Ramanuja. Let's say you were to come across such an individual. What is the very first thing that, having come across such a being, what is the very first thing that you should do? And if your answer is, oh, start asking them questions immediately, that's the wrong answer. Let me tell you what I would do, and what I have done, because I've come across amazing, truly amazing beings. When you come across such a being, the very first thing that you do is you keep your mouth shut, and you take your head and you place it at their feet in submission and with great humility. And then later, when they give you their permission, with great humility, you can ask pertinent questions. This is what you do when you meet a truly great guru, a truly great being, recognizing the rarity of such an event. This is what I have done. This is what true seekers in the past have done. And this is what you too must do if you truly want to know truth in reality. And again, not just verbally. Let's go on with this verse a little bit. Very powerful verse. Now we're talking about the disciple. At the same time, realization of the truth can be had only by those disciples who carefully follow the qualified guru's teachings and become expert in the science of God. So again, now we are dealing not just with the guru. What is the guru? How do we surrender to a guru? How do we know if a guru is qualified, etc.? Now, interestingly, this verse is talking about the disciple. That is, again, the seeker, the individual who is approaching a guru. They have to have certain qualifications as well. So let's examine this a little bit. So realization of the truth can be had only by those disciples who carefully follow the qualified guru's teachings. Let's begin there. So again, a guru. What precisely is the guru and what is the relationship of the guru to the disciple? Let me make this very clear. A guru is not a partner. A guru is not a buddy. A guru is not a colleague. A guru is not merely an advisor. A guru is not an individual who simply is 2 or 3 grades above us. Let's say, oh, they're a little bit more advanced, so I'll give them a little bit of lip service of respect, but I'm going to make it there one day too, and who knows, maybe someday I'll surpass my guru, etc. If you have any of these sorts of attitudes, you will never know truth, and that I guarantee with my life. The reason why is because you do not understand, in that case, if you have any of those attitudes, you do not understand what it means indeed to have access to that being who can indeed share truth with you. Rather, the way that we approach the guru is with radical sincerity, with radical submission, with radical surrender, and understanding that indeed this is the individual who can lead me to know God, to know myself and to know God. That being the case, this being the guru, being someone who has self-realization and God consciousness, we surrender to that person. And this is indeed the process that has been there in Vedic spirituality since before the beginning of time. This is the process that is described in all of the Vedic scriptures, etc. When Prabhupada was here, a truly legitimate guru, to put it very lightly. In fact, there are no words to even explain how legitimate a guru Prabhupada was. This was the attitude that he taught his disciples, and that his sincere disciples did their best to follow. And that is this: if you claim that you are a follower of a guru, you follow that person's teachings. You indeed do as they instruct. You understand what they are saying philosophically. You follow the practices that they are trying to teach you, etc. And you do this with great patience, with great loyalty, with great fidelity, etc. And it is in this way that, surrendering to the servant of God, you will know God. So thus, this is one thing that is explained here, is that this is how indeed a disciple follows the guru, is that they very strictly follow the teachings of that guru, and they become expert in the science of God. Thus, the disciple also has to become an expert in what the guru is teaching, what the Vedic scriptures is teaching, etc. See, again, this cheapened idea that so many people have that, oh yes, it's my well wishes alone. It's just the fact alone that I am sincere that will help me to know God. It's I mean well. It's my motivations that mean everything. Hard work, no, that's not necessary to actually attain knowledge. No, that's not necessary as long as I'm sincere. No. Sincerity is extremely important, very important. That's why I've used this term so many times, even tonight in this talk. However, sincerity coupled with the work necessary in order to grow spiritually, that's unbeatable. So we must couple our sincerity with actually acquiring that which we need to grow spiritually. So thus, that's why this verse is saying that a disciple must also become expert in the science of God. And by becoming expert, of course, that doesn't mean merely academically. That doesn't mean merely philosophically. That is that we just, again, read a lot of books, read the Vedic scriptures, or that we even just listen to what the guru says and the instructions of the guru. But more, what it means to become an expert is that we practice. We practice all of the sadhanas, all of the practices that the guru teaches us as well. Very good. So let's go on now. Such disciples are also very rare. Such disciples are also very rare. So previously, if you remember, this verse was saying how to find a truly authentic guru is very rare. And now this verse is saying, but also to find such disciples, real disciples, is extremely rare. So again, when we have the coming together of this perfect combination of that rare individual who is indeed a self-realized being, who has the ability to impart knowledge unto us, for they have seen the truth, coupled with a disciple who is willing to give of himself wholly and completely in order to know truth. When you have that combination, then you have the necessary conditions such that truth can be imparted perfectly. Thus it is that only a few ever come to know the truth, who come to know the soul in truth. Thus it is that only a few ever come to know the soul in truth. Thus, again, this is one very good reason why we believe in reincarnation, is because, again, to actually have self-realization is a rare thing. It is not something that everyone is qualified for. You see, spirituality is a meritocracy. It is by your own merit, by your own hard work, by your own qualifications that you will advance spiritually. Thus, not everyone at any given time in history is eligible to know truth. Ultimately, everyone will be, but it might be, if not in this lifetime, 100 lifetimes from now, 1,000, 1,000,000 lifetimes from now. And that is all in accordance with you and your sincerity, your desire, your will, etc., your ability. So thus, for an individual to truly know what is the nature of self, what is the nature of God by extension, by what is the nature of God, of reality, etc., that's a very rare thing. It's not something where, quite literally there is a type of collective salvation and all people at once can simply know truth. No, it's very much a personal, individual sort of thing. So thus, again, it is rare. All of this is rare, actually. It is rare to find a qualified guru. It is rare to be a qualified disciple. Again, we may think we are, but to actually be is a rare thing. And to know truth in whole is a very rare thing. Thus, indeed, when we in fact have access to truth, to actual truth, and we find that we are indeed a sincere individual, and thus we have the ability to know that truth completely, we have to understand not just how rare a situation this is, but we also have to have tremendous gratitude and appreciation for God's blessings upon us. So with that, I thank you very much for listening to this brief talk. And I did try to get through this very, very quickly. Again, this is a talk that ordinarily, if this was not a live stream, I would take at least an hour or two going much deeper into this. But as always, I want to certainly make sure that there is time for questions and answers. So with that, I will signal to everyone that now is the time. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and they can be questions, in this case, about this verse or about other things related to Vedic spirituality. And with that, please feel free to begin asking questions. Here's one question that is a very practical question. And again, the questions are pouring in now, of course, as they always do. But let me answer this first one that has come in. Namaste Acharya-ji, could I use a cushion in my meditation? My legs go numb and sleep while doing a half lotus or a full lotus pose. Absolutely. Yes, there's nothing wrong with using a cushion. In fact, traditionally, one does actually use a cushion. However, of course, in traditional times, it was a cushion made of what is called kusha grass. So you make a cushion made out of a certain kind of grass, and then you sit on there if you're going to be doing long periods of meditation. So traditionally, yes, it's perfectly fine. Actually, you don't traditionally sit on the ground. Individuals who think that you do meditation sitting on the ground, again, that's New Age. Actually, in the Vedic scriptures themselves, in fact, I'll just tell you outright so you don't have to take my word for it. Look at sixth chapter of Bhagavad-Gita. And there, for example, among many other Vedic scriptures, it's explained that this is indeed how you meditate, that you do indeed sit on a cushion made of grass. But this is indeed how you meditate. And as far as knees and legs falling asleep, that happens to quite a few people. This is why we do yoga. This is why we do yoga. This is why we stay in very good shape, etc. This is why we exercise. This is why we do things to make our blood circulate and flow very nicely, etc. But yes, again, it's a very natural thing. So what I would say is, if that is the case for you, just try to sit on an elevated cushion. That is, have your actual body higher on the cushion in comparison to the legs. The legs should be a little bit lower, and the legs should be okay at that point. Otherwise, do some asanas that specifically focus on the legs, and you will be able to sit for longer periods of time. Very good. Very good. Let me just answer Carlos very, very, very quickly, and this is all I'm going to say about this. We do not follow Kabbalah, and we absolutely do not follow Aleister Crowley. What we teach is the very opposite of what Aleister Crowley teaches. We are anti-Aleister Crowley. Aleister Crowley was anti-Dharma. He was evil. We do not follow him in any way whatsoever. We do not take any of his teachings seriously. So I would suggest that you stay very far away from Aleister Crowley if you have any sincerity in you whatsoever. Please stay away from Aleister Crowley, and we have nothing to do with Kabbalah either. We are following Sanatana Dharma, the eternal natural way. Oh, here's a good question, another good question about meditation, quite practical. Dear Acharyaji, when I meditate, my mind often produces images and thoughts of God and his activities. Should I let myself focus on them or stop to try focusing exclusively on the sound of the mantra? Very nice. This is a very nice question, and I've heard this question before, actually. Let me put this in this way. Technically speaking, yes, meditation means awareness and absolute focus on one specific object of focus. And in the case of mantra meditation, of course, that is mantra. Indeed, the name of your username is Om Namo Narayanaya. So while that is indeed the case technically, at the same time, this is what I've told people in the past. Any sort of distraction that is material in nature is something that while one is engaging in the meditative process, that is something that of course should be avoided. That is, if your mind literally wanders onto material sorts of things or impressions, etc. However, if very naturally images of God begin to come to you, let's say images of Krishna or Narayana, etc., well, that's something that's a positive. That's something that should happen to everyone when they meditate. So what I would say is when such things occur, just treat them in a very natural sort of way. In other words, don't try to encourage them, but don't try to chase them away either. Again, anything else that comes to you, you start thinking about, anything, some entertainment or worries or problems in your life or just noises you're hearing, anything like that. When you're meditating, you want to do your best to simply leave those behind and come back again to the mantra. But if, as you're doing the mantra, images of Krishna come to you or Krishna's activities, etc., that's a good thing. But again, don't look for that. Don't try to encourage it, but don't discourage it either. Hopefully that makes sense. John Fortuna asks, spiritually speaking, what is the higher purpose for this storm currently afflicting planet Earth, humanity, and especially America? Thank you so much, Acharyaji. The storm is occurring in order to create a golden age. And more, it is a coalescing, it is a coming together, it is a perfect storm of many various things that have historically brought us to this point. Many, many things that have been happening for many, at least hundreds of years, if not even longer than that, and in every single realm, certainly overtly spiritually, but also politically and historically and culturally and philosophically, etc., all bringing us to this perfect point that we now find ourselves in 2020, where on the one hand, we see evil showing its face, the likes of which most human beings have not seen before. And we know this, the Jeffrey Epsteins of the world, and that's the tip of the iceberg. We are seeing evil like we have never seen on the one hand. On the other hand, more importantly, what are we seeing? We're seeing a mass awakening, a great awakening that is happening throughout the planet, where indeed people are asking such questions by the multiple millions. So ultimately, what is the meaning of the storm? It's the calm after. It is the golden age that we are going to experience and that we are going to bring about. As I've said, it's not a matter of merely sitting back and watching, but we also must work toward bringing about this golden age by taking the knowledge that we have and sharing it with others. Even if our knowledge is very little, whatever we have, we share with others. And this way we will have a golden age. I'm going to answer this question. Namaste Acharyaji. Is it possible for a student to fully redeem oneself and come to know truth in the same life after they have personally offended the Guru? Such is the nature of grace, such is the nature of mercy, that the answer to such a question always is yes. And again, what propels the student, and again, it's not the only thing that must be there. There are other qualifications too, as I said just a few minutes ago. But the main thing that propels the student spiritually and progressively is sincerity. As long as the student is sincere, yes, they may have made mistakes. Indeed, we see this all throughout history, that there have been gurus who they'll have a foolish disciple. And that person will make mistakes, and they'll even do something to offend the guru. Indeed, when Prabhupada was here, my Lord, many of his students ignorantly were quite offensive toward him. Again, ignorantly, just not knowing any better, due to bad habits from the past. But he always forgave them. And some of these disciples of Prabhupada went on to do truly tremendous things in his service. So, yes, while to offend the Guru is something that must be avoided like the plague, Guru Aparadha, it's called, to offend the Guru, to be foolish in one's relationship with the Guru, to take the Guru for granted, etc. Such a thing is to be avoided, again, like the plague on the one hand. On the other hand, if one has made such a mistake, the Guru will forgive, and the disciple can move on from there and continue to make spiritual progress. So I hope that answered that question. Why is the Bhagavad-Gita recommended as the first scripture to read rather than Mahabharata as a whole? And is there a preferred translation of the Mahabharata? As far as a preferred translation, Kamala Subramaniam, I believe, is the author of one, not so much, it's not a full translation, it's kind of a summary study translation of the Mahabharata. And that's one that Prabhupada himself recommended. It's one that I would recommend as well. I've read that. I've also read the entire Mahabharata, multi-volume edition. That was a translation of the entire thing. As far as why, as you asked, the Bhagavad-Gita is recommended initially as opposed to the entire Mahabharata, is several things. First of all, the Mahabharata itself is 110,000 couplets. So in translation, we're talking about multiple volumes. Again, I read it. I read the entire thing. And it takes a very long time to read it. So for the average person, of course, in 2020 especially, if it's a matter of reading such a voluminous work versus reading the Bhagavad Gita, which is only 700 verses, well, certainly the latter makes more sense. That's the first thing. The other thing is the Mahabharata contains many different elements, being an epic. Being an epic, it has history, it has literally medicine, it has yoga, it has certainly spirituality and philosophy, but it talks about ethos, about ethics, about culture, about rulership, about quite literally any topic of importance that you can think of. Has science even. There is a lot that's in the Mahabharata. And if an individual very specifically is seeking philosophical truth, spiritual truth, a lot of these other things, while important, they can be a little bit distracting if your goal is to just know God. You see, with the Bhagavad Gita is focused with a mission and with a goal on indeed delivering to us self-realization and God consciousness. So this is why the Bhagavad Gita is recommended to read first, more so than Mahabharata, is because, again, it's more direct. The goal is more direct. If you wish to know God and understand the most important philosophical fundamentals, then you read the Bhagavad-Gita. And then after that, again, if you're interested in any sort of side issues, well, then you can certainly read the Mahabharata. So I hope that that makes sense. And as I always say, please be patient with me. I'm going through so many questions, and I'm trying to find questions that I have not answered in the past and that I think the majority of the audience would especially benefit from. So please just give me a few moments as I go through these. As I said last time, I very rarely answer personal questions, and the only time I ever do is if I truly feel within that it will help people. So last time someone asked me what was my personal health regimen, so I spoke about that a little bit just to encourage people. So let me read this question and answer it. Good evening, good sir. Namaste. Am I right to suppose that you feel qualified that you're a guru? The answer is I do not feel qualified in any manner whatsoever to be a guru, and I never have. And let me explain what I mean by this. I am a guru, and let there be no confusion about that. I'm not some person on YouTube. I'm not some commentator. I'm not some public personality, public intellectual. I'm not a content creator. I'm none of the above. I am a guru. I'm an individual who teaches pure spiritual truth. However, at the same time, the reason why I am in this role is for one reason, and that is I was told to be. So I do this as my duty. I do this because it's my calling. I do this because it is my mission. I do this because I quite literally have no other choice but to do this. In the same way that other people have no choice but to breathe, I have no choice but to do this. As far as feeling qualified, however, from the very first moment that in 1986 my guru looked me in the eyes and told me to become a guru and go back to America and teach people about Krishna, until now, I don't feel qualified in any way. I feel that this is my absolute humble service to my gurus, plural, and to God. And thus, this is why I do what I do. And I hope that answers the question. Here's another question that I will answer. Namaste Acharyaji. In which ways can a non-devotee pay respect to Krishna if he doesn't know any rituals, prayers, or he does not have contact with any other devotees or a guru? Thank you. Well, first of all, if you desire to pay your respects to Krishna, then you should not call yourself a non-devotee. You are a devotee. That is by definition what it means to be a devotee. See, of course, due to the influence of especially ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, a lot of people focus on the externals of what it means to be a devotee of Krishna, of what it means to be a Vaishnava. So thus some people think that, oh, unless you are living quite literally in a temple or ashram with all of the external accoutrements of what it means to be a Vaishnava, you know, wearing tilak, dressing a certain way, having a shaved head, etc., oh, then you're not a devotee. Then, unless you're doing that, you're not a devotee. And of course, that's not the case. What it means to be a devotee is that you are devoted, and that you are devoted to Krishna. or any Vishnu Tattva, any aspect of God, whether it's Narayana or Rama, etc., Krishna. This is what it means to be a devotee. And as far as how one goes about doing that, if one is lacking the things that you asked about, all of these various things, well, there are certain ways. First of all, of course, the knowledge is indeed available. So there are indeed many books that are available. Indeed, one book that I would certainly recommend is the book that I wrote, Sanatana Dharma, The Eternal Natural Way, because it contains all the things that you mentioned here, actually. If you go to dharmacentral.com, or you can even find this on Amazon, it's available everywhere. Sanatana Dharma, The Eternal Natural Way. Indeed, that book contains mantras and rituals and everything that is necessary for an individual to make spiritual progress. It contains the philosophical aspect of Vedic spirituality as well. And as far as association with devotees, if you quite literally live in a place where physically there are no other Vaishnavas around you, then you see, you're conversing with a Vedic guru on the internet. So then what to speak of having association with other Vaishnavas? Use the internet, just be online, try to find other individuals who you see are very sincere Vaishnavas, devotees of Narayana, of Krishna. Do your best to communicate with them, ask them questions, etc. Even try to Skype with them once you become friends so you can see each other face to face, and in that way you won't feel alone. So I hope that answers that question for you. Ultimately, this is the thing of importance to understand. Again, if you are sincere and if you make effort, these two things, Krishna never abandons you, and you will know God. You will have access to God if you have sincerity and if you make effort. So please never lose hope, regardless of the situation you currently find yourself in. Very good. This will be very quick, and we only have a few minutes left. Namaste Acharyaji, what are your views on gambling? Gambling is an absolute waste of existence, and it's something that we are opposed to. Prabhupada taught us to avoid gambling under all circumstances, any sort of gambling. So it's something that we avoid. I don't gamble in any way. Never have, actually. I never had even before I was a devotee, I never had an interest in gambling whatsoever. I always saw it as an absolute waste of time. So, yes, we are opposed to gambling. I'll see if with the time we have, there's maybe one more question that I can answer. Here's an interesting but very easy to answer question. What is a larger work, the Vedas or the Mahabharata? Definitely the Mahabharata. The Vedas, and if you're talking about even all four Vedas combined, are not as enormous as the Mahabharata. Mahabharata is one of, if not the largest works of traditional literature ever written. So Mahabharata is indeed extremely, extremely large. This will be the last question that I will answer here, just again due to lack of time. Acharyaji, I just want to know, how about the people who do not know about Krishna, but they have a good heart? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. There are individuals who they may not even be fully aware of, let's say, what Vedic spirituality or Sanatana Dharma or Krishna or any of these various things and individuals. They may not know about any of this, what these are, etc. But they may still be very good, very sincere people anyway. Again, we talked about this previously when we talked about this verse. oh, you can live in places in this world where to this day it is impossible to gain this knowledge. So for example, let's say if you live in North Korea, you can't purchase a Bhagavad-Gita or pursue this knowledge if you live in North Korea. I mean, you cannot. It is quite literally an impossibility. For that matter, maybe hopefully this has changed, because I know Saudi Arabia has become better now. But at one point, if you tried to even bring a copy of the Bhagavad Gita with you into Saudi Arabia, they would stop you at the airport. They would immediately confiscate it from you, no questions. They wouldn't ask your permission. They would confiscate it from you to later be burnt. So there are indeed places in this world where even today, it is very difficult to gain this knowledge. But does that mean that there are not individuals in those individual nations who are not sincere? Of course there are. Of course there are. And what is the answer for such individuals who they may not know about Krishna, but they are good people nonetheless? The answer is this: in time they will know about Krishna. Maybe in that lifetime, maybe eventually they will escape that nation and go to a place that is free. Or maybe somehow or other, some knowledge will be snuck into them. Or if not in this lifetime, in a future lifetime. If an individual tries to practice spirituality with whatever knowledge they have, with whatever knowledge is available to them, and they literally have no other knowledge for one reason or another, then in some future lifetime, indeed, they will be born in a circumstance where they will be able to know the truth in full. So Krishna protects his devotees, even if for the time being they themselves are not 100% aware that they are indeed his devotees. But in many ways they act as if they are nonetheless. So Krishna protects us all. Very good. So with that, again, we have about 3 minutes before we have to end. So I'm going to stop here. I, as always, apologize to those many individuals who asked questions that I just could not get to just due to time. Thank you again all for being here, and I hope that you derived some blessings from this verse that we spoke about today. Again, we necessarily went through it a little bit quickly. If this were a different format, I would really take my time with all these verses that we go over every single week. But I hope that you derived some good spiritual benefit from this verse and from the talk. And again, just a few reminders. When you have a chance, please visit our website. It's dharmacentral.com. And you can look at the description of this video for the link to that and many of the other things I'm going to mention. When you visit Dharma Central, if you so desire, please sign up for our email list. You'll see immediately when you go there that there'll be a little box where you can sign up for that, and that way you can get more information. One thing that I always forget to mention, actually, people are not aware of this. When you sign up, automatically, the first thing that happens to you is that you automatically get a very nice message that contains an absolutely free PDF on how to practice authentic spirituality. It's almost like a small booklet that you have access to for free. And that's just something that we give to anyone who joins up our email list just as a gift. So that's the first thing that you'll get. So please feel free to join our email list. The other thing is, while you're there at dharmacentral.com, if you have benefited from these teachings, either just today or if you have been following for years, please consider becoming an official member of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Become a monthly tithing member. You can do this for any amount. We have some people who, it's very kind of them, they donate $5 a month, and that's probably all that they can afford, and we are eternally grateful for that. Some people donate much, much more every month, and everything in between. It doesn't matter how much you donate, but anything that you can give as far as donating and becoming specifically a member of the International Sanatana Dharma Society, anything that you can give in that way helps us to do precisely what we are doing and all of the many projects that you don't necessarily see with these live streams that we're engaged in. Also, in that way, of course, you feel personally connected with both myself and with the International Sanatana Dharma Society. Also, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, the Dharma Nation channel. We just reached 17,000 subscribers. We were very happy about that. That happened very early this morning. I think it was maybe around 5:30 in the morning that I saw that personally. So this channel is definitely growing tremendously. We want to grow more. We want to eventually have 50, then 100,000, and then the sky is the limit as far as how many subscribers. But if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Please do so. And with that, again, we will end here. I thank you very much for your time, for being here. I hope that this was spiritually beneficial to you in every way. We will do this again next Monday at the same time, 7 p.m. my time, which is Central Time, whatever time it is for you. Please be here again next week at this exact same time, and we will do this again. Thank you all again for being here. Namaste. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Victory to Sanatana Dharma. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. May the Dharma nation be victorious. And with that, until next week, everyone, in every way, please take very good care of yourselves and your families and your loved ones. We will see you next week.